7 men from a criminal network who stole more than 100,000 worth of watches, artwork and designer goods in smash and grab robberies have been jailed for a total of 22 years. Robbers used sledgehammers, bricks and a Ford Fiesta to carry their way into a series of high-end London stores between May and August 2025. By looking at the vehicle movements and thousands of hours of CCTV footage, police confirmed the string of offences were all linked to the same criminal network operating near Paddington in West London. Christopher Gibbs, 43, George O'Hare, 42, Paul Hughes, 42, Anthony Munday, 40, Lee James McCready, 46, Matthew Rindras, 50, David Rigglesford, 37, were sentenced at Kingston Crown Court. One of the defendants, McCready of Uxbridge, took part in a robbery where almost 60,000 worth of watches and jewellery were stolen from Sutton's and Robertson's store on Edgware Road. CCTV footage seen in court showed 2 men rushing up to the shop front wearing balaclavas and carrying sledgehammers. The 2 men, identified as McCready and Windras, proceeded to snatch watches and jewellery through the windows before running back to a getaway driver in a silver Jaguar, identified as Munday. William Snedden, prosecuting, said, on seeing the 2 males leave by the store security cameras, Mr. Keeney, the store manager, exited the store. A large crowd had gathered and a lot of people were filming. He assessed that around 5 watches and some jewellery items valued at a minimum of £59,930 had been stolen. The whole incident lasted approximately 9 minutes. Defending Munday, Kane Sharp said the sledgehammers were not carried as weapons but as tools to carry out what was essentially a smash and grab burglary. In another burglary caught on CCTV involving Gibbs, O'Hare and Hughes, the robbers used a Ford Fiesta to crash through the doors of a Fendi store on Sloane Street. They can be seen grabbing designer handbags before escaping using a motorbike and a silver Mercedes. Mr. Snedden said while the Fiesta was ramming the store's doors, the passenger from the Mercedes and the motorcyclist stood on the pavement nearby. After the 3rd ram of the doors, the driver of the Fiesta got out of the vehicle and joined the other 2 men who had entered the Fendi store. The driver of the Mercedes remained in the vehicle during the offence. Gibbs was also sentenced for using a paving block to smash through the locked front door of Clarendon Fine Art before stealing 2 pieces of framed art, collectively valued at £66,500, along with another unknown man. Across the group, 5 successful burglaries of London shops were committed between May and July 2025, with a similar technique being used each time. A total of £146,356 worth of items were stolen during those incidents. There were also 2 unsuccessful burglaries of Apothecary in Marylebone and a watch shop in Westminster, the court heard. Rigglesford of Kilburn was also separately convicted of a hotel robbery, 2 car thefts and an attempted theft of a rucksack from a vehicle. The prosecution said a blue Mini Cooper stolen by Rigglesford on May the 22nd last year was used as a getaway vehicle in a burglary of Phillips Auction House, where items to a value of £610,500 would be stolen 4 days later. No one has yet been charged in connection with that incident, the court heard. Gibbs, McCready, Windras, O'Hare, Munday were located and arrested in a series of coordinated raids on August the 5th, 2025. Hughes and Rigglesford were arrested and charged for their involvement on September the 29th, 2025. Detective Chief Inspector Scott Mather from the Mets Flying Squad said, "We realise these attacks on luxury stores have had a significant impact on business owners and the communities around them. The detectives worked quickly, establishing common patterns between the attacks to link them to one criminal network. Forensic analysts and fast-paced CCTV inquiries were then able to identify the suspects." Christopher Gibbs, 43, of Talbot Road, Bayswater, was convicted of 4 counts of burglary on Sloane Street, St John's Wood High Street, Duke Street, and Marylebone High Street, and 1 of attempted burglary on Marylebone High Street. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. George O'Hare, 37, of Wormholt Road, Wormholt, was convicted of 1 count of burglary on Sloane Street, possession of Class A drugs, and a breach of a serious crime prevention order. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Paul Hughes, 42, of Grendon Street, Church Street, was convicted of 2 counts of burglary on Sloane Street and St John's Wood High Street. He was also convicted of an unrelated robbery. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Anthony Munday, 40, of Harrow Road, Hyde Park, was convicted of 1 count of burglary on Edgware Road. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, suspended for 2 years, and 150 hours of unpaid work. Lee McCready, 45, of Grand Junction Place, Uxbridge, was convicted of 1 count of burglary on Edgware Road. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Matthew Windras, 50, of Park Crescent, Ascot, was convicted of 1 count of burglary on Edgware Road. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. David Rigglesford, 37, of Denmark Road, Kilburn, was convicted of 2 counts of burglary on Kensington Church Street and Duke Street. He was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months in prison. Please like this video, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.